Matthew Academy, where children of wealthy executives and high-profile politicians studied the atmosphere, buzzed with privilege, the students wore custom-tailored uniforms, discussed weekend getaways on private jets, and competed over designer bags and luxury watches in this world of elite perfection. Someone like Maria and her daughter Mary didn't belong. At least not in the eyes of most. Maria was the school's janitor. Quiet, respectful, and always arriving before dawn. Her 12-year-old daughter Mary often accompanied her after school hours, doing homework quietly, in the back of empty classrooms or helping her mom carry supplies. Maria couldn't afford a babysitter, and Mary didn't mind. She found comfort in the quiet halls, the dusty shelves, and most of all, in the music room. There Mary would stare longingly at the beautiful classical guitar displayed behind glass, the same one used by music students during lessons unknown to anyone. Music wasn't new to her. Her late father had been a passionate guitarist, and though Maria had sold most of his things to survive, one broken guitar had remained every night at home. Mary practiced on it, sometimes with strings missing, until her fingers blistered one Thursday afternoon during a free period. Music teacher Mr. Peter was guiding a class of bored teenagers through basic guitar exercises. Many students looked at the instrument like it was beneath them. One struggled to tune it, another fumbled chords. Mr. Daniel sighed and joked, "Looks like none of you inherited Rick's fingers." That's when his eyes fell on Mary, who was quietly sweeping near the back. "Hey!" he called, amused. "You the janitor's girl, want to give it a shot?" A ripple of laughter spread across the room. Mary froze. She could tell from his tone. It wasn't a real offer. It was a joke, a public joke. She looked at her mother, who was too far away to hear. Still, something in Mary stirred. She walked forward slowly, swallowing her nervousness. Mr. Peter raised an eyebrow but handed her the guitar. "Let's see what you've got." "Sheirim." He smirked. She sat on the stool, took a deep breath, and rested the guitar on her lap. Her fingers found their place instinctively. She began to strum the chords of Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven. At first, the room stayed quiet out of awkwardness, waiting for her to embarrass herself, but the very first notes changed, that they rang out clear, crisp, soulful. The laughter stopped. Eyes widened, then came her voice, soft but haunting. She sang like the lyrics belonged to her, like she'd lived every word. The acoustics of the room captured every note, every tremble, every pause. Mr. Peter lowered the music sheet he'd been holding. Even the students who had laughed were now sitting upright, staring at her. She wasn't just playing a song. She was pouring out her soul, her grief, her hope. By the time she strummed the final chord, the entire room sat frozen. Mr. Peter cleared his throat. Where did you learn to play like that?" Mary smiled softly. "My dad taught me before he passed." A thick silence followed, and then a slow clap. One student stood clapping, then another, until the entire class erupted in applause that echoed down the corridors. In that moment, the janitor's daughter wasn't a punchline. She was the most talented person in the room. The applause still rang in Mary's ears as she handed the guitar back to Mr. Peter. He held it with both hands, now gently, almost reverently. The smirk on his face was gone, replaced by disbelief. "Mary," he said, clearing his throat, "how long have you been playing?" She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Since I was 6. My dad taught me. We didn't have much, but music was always in the house." A few students murmured among themselves. Even the ones who had laughed the loudest earlier looked ashamed. Mr. Peter nodded slowly. "Would you consider joining our school's music club?" Mary's eyes widened. "But I'm not a student here." "I know," he replied, "but I'll talk to the principal. Maybe we can make an exception." At that moment, Maria stepped into the room, confused by the clapping. She'd heard from down the hallway. She spotted Mary standing at the front of the class, a guitar in hand, and paused. "Mary, what's going on?" Before her daughter could answer, Mr. Peter approached her. "Ma'am," he said with unusual humility, "your daughter has extraordinary talent. I'd like to invite her to perform in our upcoming winter showcase." Maria looked stunned. "Perform? But she's not a student. I clean here." "Yes," he said, "but that doesn't mean her talent should be hidden. We'll handle everything. Just please let her play." Mary looked up at her mother, her eyes pleading. Maria hesitated. She'd spent years teaching her daughter to keep her head down. Not to draw attention, but in this moment, she realized hiding wasn't what her daughter was born to do. She nodded. If Mary wants to. Then yes, the next 3 weeks changed everything. Mary was given supervised access to the music room where she practiced on professional-grade instruments for the first time in her life. Mr. Peter worked with her personally, and word of her talent spread quickly. Even some of the wealthiest students, those who had once scoffed, now watched her with admiration. The night of the winter showcase arrived. Parents, donors, board members, all dressed in elegant evening wear, filled the school auditorium. No one paid much attention to Mary's name on the program. To most, she was just a last-minute addition until she stepped onto the stage wearing a simple dress, holding her father's old guitar, now repaired by the school's music department. She sat beneath the spotlight, and then she played from flamenco rhythms to acoustic ballads. She flowed through melodies with the grace of a seasoned performer. The final song was an original composition, a tribute to her father, blending jazz, blues, and folk in a way that made even the wealthiest parents sit upright in their chairs when she ended. The silence was thick with awe. Then came the applause, a standing ovation, not out of politeness, but pure admiration. Backstage, the school principal approached Maria and Mr. Peter with tears in her eyes. "We would like to offer Mary a full scholarship here," she said. "Her talent deserves to be nurtured." Maria's hands trembled. You would do that?" "Absolutely." Starting next semester, Mary burst into tears, hugging her mother tightly in the weeks that followed. Mary's story was shared across local news channels and social media. People were touched by the girl who rose above judgment, whose music broke barriers of class and pride. And at Matthew Wood Academy, a silent shift began. The staff and students began seeing beyond uniforms and last names, recognizing that brilliance could come from anywhere, even from the daughter of a school janitor.